Where are they now? The Seattle Kraken inaugural roster? Well, I'll tell you.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Seattle hockey fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. That's right. We are back in season. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken. Been with you since the very beginning. The expansion draft, which we talked about, the inaugural season, which we'll talk about a little bit this week. And, of course, leading up to Season 5, I will be wheels down in Seattle on Saturday. Cannot wait to be with you. Also an accredited media member for Milano Cortina, the Winter Olympics, where we know Philip Grubauer will be. We've got, Oscar Molgaard likely going to play for Denmark. We've got Oliver Bjorkstrand, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and maybe some more players with some Kraken ties. Want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You can go download the FanDuel app by heading to FanDuel.com. And if you place and win your first $5 bet, you can get $300 back in bonus bets. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the inaugural team, what we saw from the team, how things went for the inaugural roster, and then we'll break down the players with 10 or fewer games, NHL games played in the inaugural season. And yes, I will answer, where are they now? Then we will also talk about the Common Threads jerseys. And of course, a reminder, I will remind you later on in the show, throughout the show, that tomorrow, on Thursday, we will have the alternate jerseys, the third jerseys for the Seattle Kraken, go on public sale. Some of you season ticket holders probably already got yours, but if you don't, 9 a.m. Pacific time, make sure you refresh that website to get your menacing glow-in-the-dark jerseys. All right, let's get cracking, if you will, with the Seattle Kraken inaugural roster, which included some players that we've already talked about in our Where Are They Now series because they were taken in the expansion draft. But there were some names that we didn't mention on that Where Are They Now. As a reminder, let me go over the expansion draft list. Included players like Carson Truwinski, Tyler Pitlick, John Quinville, Curtis McDermott, Vanacek, we talked about Vitek Vanacek, Dennis Cholowski, we'll talk a little bit about Alexander True, Nathan Bastian, Cole Lind, Cale Fleury, Chris Drieger, Hayden Fleury, Colin Blackwell, Callie Yarncroke, Mason Appleton, Jeremy Lazan, Mark Giordano, Jonas Donskoy, Joy Decord, Morgan Geeky, Carson Soucy, Will Borgen, Brandon Tanev, maybe persona non grata at CPA these days, Yanni Gourde, Vince Dunn, Jordan Eberle, Jamie Alexiak, Jared McCann, and Adam Larson. But there were some other players that were a part of that inaugural roster who were not taken in the expansion draft. We're going to talk about the entire entire inaugural roster. So I will not differentiate on this list whether they were taken, I will tell you if they were taken in the expansion draft, free agency, etc., but I won't differentiate. So we're going to talk about everyone on the inaugural roster. So some we'll talk about again. But the list of players on the inaugural roster include Mason Appleton, Alex Barré-Boulet, Nathan Bastian, Maddie Veneers, Colin Blackwell, Austin Zarnik, Ryan Donato, Mr. Piss and Vinegar himself, Jonas Donskoy, Jordan Eberle, Morgan Geeky, Yanni Gourde, Callie Yarncroke, Marcus Johannes, Carson Coleman, that was a throwback when I saw that one. Colin, Jared McCann, Max McCormick, Victor Rosk, Jaden Schwartz, Riley Sheehan, Daniel Sprong. Yeah, Daniel Sprong, Brandon Tanev, Alexander True, Alexander Wenberg. Haven't talked about him yet. Will Borgen, Dennis Cholowski, Vince Dunn, Cale Fleury, Hayden Fleury, Mark Giordano, Adam Larson, Jeremy Lazan, Jamie Alexiak, Derek Pouliot, Carson Soucy, Joy Decord, Chris Drieger, and Philip Grubauer. So that's the full list. The Seattle Kraken played in the 2021-2022 season. That was their first season. They played on the road for their first few games because Climate Pledge Arena wasn't quite ready yet. There was a lot going on. A lot of guys had COVID scares. Some actually got COVID and didn't play for the first few games. There was a lot going on. So the Seattle Kraken in 2021-22, 82-game season, 27 wins, 49 losses, 6 overtimes, goals for 213, goals against 284. They got 60 points, their lowest ever. Then they had 16-22 record at home, fewest wins at home, but not by a lot. We'll talk about that as we can continue going. 3 overtime games at home, an 11-27 record on the road. They finished 30th overall in the National Hockey League. That's their worst finish in franchise history, was in their inaugural season. They finished 15th in the Western Conference. They finished 8th in the Pacific Division, and it was the first of 3 seasons that they did not qualify for the postseason. So that's Kraken hockey, baby, right? That's what we saw from that inaugural season. That was, of course, under Dave Haxtell. He was our head coach. We are now going on to our 3rd head coach in Lane Lambert. So there you go. But, this was an exciting season in that it was the first ever season for the Seattle Kraken. It was a difficult season in that we didn't have a winning record, our worst season on the books. It was also difficult because we offloaded our captain. Our first ever captain, Mark Giordano, did not even complete the entire inaugural season with us. A lot of people thinking maybe, I don't know if it'll be our captain, although Eberle, I think, is definitely on the table when it comes to trades, but the Kraken are likely going to be movers and shakers when it comes to moving players, and maybe that's how we'll get some of our young blood. I know we've been talking about the youths, vets versus new threats. We have some great comments here. I knew y'all weren't going to like the Athletic ranking Shane over Maddie. We'll talk about that. But, one of the things that a lot of people want to see is that this Seattle Kraken team has to get serious about making some moves. And this seems like the perfect season for the Kraken to do that. But, we have to see how it all pans out. So the Seattle Kraken, when it came to the inaugural season, our leading goal scorer, I'm pretty sure you know who that was. It was Jared McCann. He played 74 games for us in the inaugural season, had 27 goals, 23 assists for 50 points. Next highest was, points-wise, was Yanni Gourde, who had 48 points. His breakdown was 21 goals, 27 assists. Jordan Eberle had the 3rd most points and the only player to be at 40 or more points, the only other player, I should say, alongside McCann and Gourde to be at 40 or better points. He had 44 points, Jordan Eberle, our current captain, and that breakdown was also 21 goals, just like Yanni Gourde, and 23 assists. The highest scoring defender, as you can probably figure, was defenseman Vince Dunn, 7 goals, but 28 assists overall. And Alex Wenberg was our 4th highest scorer, 37 points, 11 goals, 26 assists. The Seattle Kraken, we're not particularly good. When we look at the when we look at goaltending, Philip Grubauer played in 55 games and had an 18-31, yikes, record, a 3.16 goals against average, an 8.89 save percentage. Chris Drieger got injured, only played 27 games, started 24 of them, a 9-14 record, a 2.96 goals against average, an 8.99 save percentage. We did see Joey Gourde for 5 games, 4 starts overall, no wins, all losses, a 4.30 goals against average, and an 8.50 save percentage. Yeah, it definitely wasn't the Martin Jones year. But coming up next, let's talk about players who did suit up for the Seattle Kraken in the inaugural season, but only had 10 or fewer games played. And we'll talk about what their circumstances were. And we will close out this show talking about the common threads. I'm going to give you my blind reaction or my first reaction to how I would rank the jerseys. They're all pretty much fire. And I'm not going to compare them to other seasons. I'd have to really look because some of these might be some of my favorites, but I will rank them as best as I can. I keep going back and forth, but I'm going to give you my ranking off the dome, which common threads jerseys I like best. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken, as I mentioned at the top of the show, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. We know the NFL season is upon us, and FanDuel wants to make sure you are ready for kickoff. And that is with our can't miss offer. Again, right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. And you can use those bonus bets all across the app. So many different use cases for folks over at FanDuel, including player props. You can do same game parlays, futures bets, which is something that I talk about a lot on the show. And you can even jump in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to make Sundays even more energetic. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, thanking you if you make us your first listen of the day. If you make us your midday listen while you're doing laundry, running errands, getting the kiddos ready, whatever the case is, we appreciate you, late night listeners, while winding down for the day. I hope you don't listen while you're trying to wind down because I definitely get a little wound up. I actually just recorded prior to this an episode talking about the Seattle Storm. Tempestagi Talk is our Seattle Storm podcast over at Black Rosie Media, and it's almost award season for the WNBA, and things definitely got pretty spicy over there. But if you're not already, make sure you follow Black Rosie Media for some women's sports coverage. Okay. So, again, I ran through all of the players on the Seattle Kraken. I gave you some of the stats, individual stats, the team stats, goalie stats. Tough season. We kind of knew that going in, but it was the first season and it was special. And there's some names on there that I'm going to spend extra time on when we get to them because some of these guys are just, some are like only like a faded memory. Like I feel like the old woman from I feel like I sound, not like I look or feel, but I feel like I sound like the woman from Titanic, I remember them now only in my memory. But some of those guys, it's like, like little whispers of a memory, right? And other guys just quintessentially a part of my Kraken experience. I don't know about you. I think if you listen to this show, basically for more than 5 minutes, you know who one of my quintessential Kraken players is. And it's just someone that I wish was still on the team, but who embodies Kraken hockey to me. I'd love for him to find his way back, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Anyway, we'll talk about him as this Where Are They Now series continues. So I've done the Where Are They Now in a 3-part series of talking about the expansion roster or the expansion draft picks. Now, not everyone from the expansion draft made the roster. And so I'll talk about just some of those guys that did not play any games for the Seattle Kraken. Gavin Bather, Carson Truinski, Tyler Pitlick, John Quinville, Curtis McDermott, and Vitek Vanacek. And I know Striatic had a comment saying that there is an alternate universe in the Seattle Kraken universe, right? Where we get Vanacek instead of Philip Grubauer. How would that have worked out in season one, considering Chris Drieger, didn't play too much? Joey Dax only a little bit here and there. 4 games, 4 losses for him. Look at him now. Where is he now? But we'll get to him. I guess I kind of did that. And I said, 4 games or fewer, or 10 games or fewer. Technically, Joey Gourde counts. I feel like I was going to save him for later because he's played so many games. Well, we might as well start with Joey. I talked to you about this going into, I guess it would have been season 3. I was hearing murmurs that not everyone wanted Joey Dax to maybe make this team, the NHL team. We're kind of maybe hoping that Chris Drieger, coming off of an ACL injury, could make something happen. Unfortunately, in season 3, or fortunately, I guess if you think about it from a Joey Gourde perspective, Martin Jones didn't stick around. But we'll talk about where are they now season 2. You already know who my MVP of season 2 is, Martin Jones, just in case that wasn't clear. But so Joey Gourde, one of those players that played 10 or fewer games. But there's some other guys that I want to talk about from this inaugural season. Alex Barré-Boulet. He was claimed off of waivers from the Tampa Bay Lightning. He is still in the NHL with the Colorado Avalanche. He played 2 total games before being placed on waivers, and then was picked up off of waivers by the Tampa Bay Lightning. And so, thinking about the Seattle Kraken, there are just some players that they didn't really see too much time. But where is he now? He went on to play, as I mentioned, for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the 21-22 season and stayed with them until the end of the 23-24 season, and then signed as a free agent in Montreal in July of 2024. And leading up to this season, he signed as a free agent in Colorado. So that is where he is expected to be with the Avalanche organization. Moving on, someone that we talked about in the expansion draft, Dennis Cholowski. Alex Barré-Boulet, a centerman, but Cholowski, also someone on this list. And he was claimed off of waivers by the Seattle Kraken from the Washington Capitals on October 14th of 2021. So he came to the Seattle Kraken, early on in that first season. He only played 4 games for the Seattle Kraken. For the Kraken, his stats in those 4 games: no goals, 2 assists, so 2 points overall. He had a +1 ±. He had an average time on ice per game was at actually 19 minutes 43 seconds. So 8 shots recorded overall. He ended up signing as a free agent in New York with the Islanders on August 23rd of 2022. He kind of was back and forth between Washington and Seattle for a little bit, but never really made too much of a splash. Okay, moving on. Austin Czarnik, a player that was claimed off of waivers from the Islanders, played 6 games for the Seattle Kraken. He was claimed off of waivers by the New York Islanders from Seattle on March 6th of 2022. When we look at his games for the Seattle Kraken, again, just the 6 games, 2 assists. So those were his 2 points. He averaged 10:48 time on ice and had 5 shots. He right now, when we look at where he's at, the last team that he played for, 23-24, the Detroit Red Wings. He signed as a free agent with Detroit in July of 2022. Keeping it moving, players that did not play more than 10 games with the Seattle Kraken in the inaugural season. Alexander True, centerman, was signed by San Jose in 2018. He was claimed by the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft in July of 2021, and he signed as a free agent in Florida in July of 2023. For the Seattle Kraken in the inaugural season, he played 8 games, a -2, time on ice 815. Now, he did play in the AHL when he was with the Kraken organization, first for the Checkers and then for the Firebirds in their inaugural season. But, that was pretty much all she wrote with regard to the NHL. But he has played overseas. And that's where he's playing now. He's playing in Sweden. All right, moving along, just 2 more players, including one who's still on the Seattle Kraken roster, but Derek Pouliot is a defender claimed off of waivers by Seattle from the Vegas Golden Knights on March 21st of 2022. So a part of that inaugural season, but on the back end, the 2022 part of it. The defenseman, 6'1", 205 pounds, currently listed as part of the Rangers organization. He played 9 games with the Seattle Kraken, 3 points, had a +6 penalty minutes to 15.46 time on ice per game. And then after Seattle, he was claimed after Seattle, he signed with the San Jose Sharks on March 2nd of 23. And then he went on to sign as a free agent with Dallas in July of 23. He signed as a free agent in Tampa Bay by July of 2024, and he signed as a free agent with the New York Rangers in July of this year, 2025. The final player in our first installment of the Where Are They Now inaugural season roster is none other than Matty Beniers. We know him. I think most of us still love him, although, again, the comments on YouTube in particular, a little bit more Shane Wright heavy than Matty B. I still believe in the year of Beniers. He played those 10 magical games for the Seattle Kraken after getting a call-up. He was phenomenal for the Seattle Kraken in his first 10 games, 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points. He was a -1, 1656 time on ice. Oh, we're going to talk about Shane Wright's time on ice in his rookie campaign and last year, but just something to keep in mind. 18 shots in 10 games. He took 42. His face-off percentage, was a 42.4. He's been pretty consistent, tapping out at 47.7 in the 2024-25 season. But Matty Beniers played, he's in that 10 or fewer category. Nathan Bastian just gets to 12 and will be in the next tier that we talk about that will be coming up this week on Locked On Kraken. You know, I cannot wait to talk about Donnie Boy, Ryan Donato. Let me know who's your favorite player from the inaugural season of the Seattle Kraken. Were you watching the Kraken or were you rooting for someone else around that time? Let me know in the comments. Coming up next on Locked On Kraken, I'm going to talk about the Common Threads jerseys. They made their debut on the interwebs, and I, for one, cannot wait to see them live in living color. We'll talk about that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Most people, myself included, for the most part, can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. If you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table, or even worse, spending more money than you should. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy to use interface. And I do love the interface. I talk about the dashboards all the time. You can look at Monarch Money on your laptop or even on your mobile device. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, like me. I'm raising my hand, audio listeners. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It does all the heavy lifting. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visualizations, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Can you see why I like Monarch Money so much? I love the cash flow dashboard. It really helps me when I'm thinking about contracting with different freelancers or budgeting in different travel or expenses. That's my personal favorite dashboard. But you can look at all kinds of things. You can even put in and review your finances if you have a partner in life or business or otherwise. So don't let the financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code Locked On NHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code Locked On NHL. Thank you, Seattle hockey fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken. Erica L. Ayala talked about some of the OGs. Now, these are the OGs that didn't go the distance, with one exception, Matty Beniers, who did make his debut in the inaugural season. But, there's so many other guys to talk about from that inaugural roster, and we will do that as we continue on the Locked On Kraken podcast this season. But I want to talk about the common threads. Now, this used to be known as kind of the Hockey is for Everyone night, but the Seattle Kraken rebranded, and now we get these common threads jerseys, and they're pretty sick this year. The Kraken Common Thread program, unfortunately, because of decisions made by the National Hockey League, we don't get to see these for warm-ups, but the Kraken have always found pretty cool ways to incorporate them into Seattle Kraken culture and Seattle culture overall. So this year, the Common Threads have Hispanic Heritage Night on October 28th, then Indigenous Peoples Night on December 16th, Pride Night on January 8th, Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Night, also known as AANHPI Night. That's going to be on January 29th. Then there's Black Hockey History Night on February 28th, coming right off of the heels of the Olympics. What color will USA get? Will they medal? Who else will medal? All of the things that I cannot wait to cover for you when I am in Milano Cortina for the Winter Olympics, covering the women's and men's tournaments. Speaking of Women in Hockey Night, March 10th, and Green Night. Okay, the jerseys are sick. We can see, of course, they have the S, but then, of course, the secondary logo. This one is Green Night right here. I see some floral elements. The eye has a nice kind of yellow, but more of like a gold color there. I see some tulips. I don't know the names of all the flowers, but I'm pretty sure there are tulips on here. And I like it. I dig it. Women in Hockey Night. I see roots. I see I want to know more about this. And there are deeper dives here, but for this episode, I'm really just going into the design and what my interpretation is. I love this idea of roots and having that be Women in Hockey Night. I want to learn more about that. This one is a futuristic, I did read a little bit more on this one, a futuristic take for Black Hockey History Night. I love the idea of a Futurama, pretty sick lines, giving a galactic kind of vibe here. Not such an on the nose kind of, Pan-African flag vibe here. A really interesting wrinkle when it comes to the anchor. And there's some kind of mechanism, it seems like here. I like it. I dig it a lot. The NHPI. I don't know what these symbols mean exactly, but the flow to them I love. And it's definitely not so literal. There's a smart design here in how it was done. It's very simplistic too. It's very clean. It's a clean uni. We're gonna have to have Jordan Dabney on. I know I mentioned it in passing, not my story to tell, but when Jordan is ready to return in earnest and has handled some things with family, I'm super excited to have her break this down and what she thinks. I would love to get the artists. We'll see if we can get some of the artists on the show to talk about this. Okay, Pride. We've got unicorns. We've got butterflies. We've got flowers. We've got rainbow hoops. We've got a rainbow horn, a rainbow mane, a rainbow tail, a rainbow Space Needle. This is going all out. And then there's a floral element. I mentioned already the mariposas or the butterflies. Love this. It is like, that is a fierce unicorn. And I'm here for it. In the S, like the unicorn is in the S, but then like the eye, the red glare is also there, but it's not the Kraken eye, it's a unicorn eye. Like, I'm here for this. I love this design. It also is giving me like and I don't mean this in like a disparaging way. I mean it in more of like a nostalgic way. It's giving me like, what was that? What were those Trapper Keeper binders? Like Lisa Frank, right? It's like the color scheme, but it's like an evolved, like an elevated, kind of Lisa Frank moment here. I love it. I love it. Okay, Indigenous Peoples Night. Ooh, ooh, this goes hard. I see bird. I see fish. I love this design. Might be my favorite. I think it's probably my number one. I'm going to tell you in a minute, but I think this is my number one. I think we're going with that as my number one. And then there is Hispanic Heritage Night. I'm not picking up on all of the references here. Yeah, I wonder what the references are here. I have some inklings because Hispanic is a little bit different than Latino, and that's a whole thing. So culturally, there are some elements that might not necessarily be my culture, but I feel like there are homages and point to different things. So I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I get the vibe that this is very much like well, they're all celebrations, or in theory they are, right? But like a very specific kind of cultural, like coming of age vibe is what I'm getting here. And so there's like this playful, but also a tradition that's being honored and represented here. I love kind of like that pink with the contrast of the red and almost like this neon kind of green here. I wonder what I feel like, are these stars, estrellas, 3 stars? Again, I feel like there's a lot of symbolism that I can recognize, but I don't know the history behind. So this one in particular, I'm excited to learn more about. So my favorite, it's between Indigenous Peoples Night and I think, I keep going back and forth. I love green and I love these roots. I really love the roots. I feel like another reason I didn't look into some, I just happened to read while I was opening the email, but I didn't read too deep into the stories because a story will definitely sway me. I'm going with, okay, I'm going to give it to you. Here we go. Indigenous Peoples Night. Indigenous Peoples Night is my number one. Immediately I saw it and I was like, fuego, fire. I want it on a hat. I want it on a puck. I want it on a pin. I almost never get the pins from Common Thread. I know they're super popular. It's like a whole vibe when you go to CPA, and I'm not there enough, but I might have to order that thing because that I love this, man. This is my favorite. This is definitely my favorite. Coming in at number 2. Oh gosh. Oh man, this is tough. Not knowing the backstory, I'm going to go with Black hockey history, but women in hockey like so close. They might be tied for 2. honestly. At number 3, I'm just going to say they're tied for 2. At number 3 then is AANHPI night. I just love this. I think it's so clean. I cannot wait to learn more about the symbolism here because like it feels like a whole vibe. I love that it's just super simple, but also not at the same time. This one goes so freaking hard. Again, like the Lisa Frank, the Trapper Keeper vibe here. I love it. I love it. It almost like I feel like there's a world in which some people might think this is a little too busy, but it really works for me. I think that's gonna look really great on a jersey. I also sometimes I'm like, would I wear this on a hat? I don't know that I would like that on a hat, but like a sticker, I love stickers. I love decal stickers. I would rock it as a decal sticker, but it doesn't have the flexibility that some of the others have where I'm like, I need the puck. I need the decal. I need the hat. You know, I love a nice hat. I love hats. I really do. And I feel like for me, for my taste, it's just like a little bit too much on a hat. I like my hats to be like sleek, clean, you know, because I want to wear my dangly earrings. I want to wear my anchor earrings or whatever. And so that's just for me. So after that then comes probably, Hispanic Heritage Night. I feel so guilty ranking these. And then Green Night. Yeah, that's probably right. But all of them are freaking fire. That's just me ranking like eye test. I feel like I'm going to have to re-rank when I learn more about the storytelling in here because I think some are going to rise to the top because I love a good story. I can be sold into a story. I feel like women in hockey night, that story is probably going to be my favorite. The logo is so fire. And I feel like I could tell a story just looking at that logo. So I want to know what the artist is trying to convey because I have a million things. Like I love the idea of roots and women and oh, yes. Let me know what's your favorite common thread design. And a reminder, if you haven't already, set your alarms and your alerts because on Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, if you haven't already ordered through some of the other pre-sales, it is the public pre-sale for the sick jersey that is the bioluminescent, all black, glow in the dark, just absolutely stank of a jersey that I cannot wait to see the Seattle Kraken rack, that I cannot wait to see the Seattle Kraken rock and have a sick, hopefully winning record wearing these absolute bangers. I mean, these things, I love them. I love them so much. So, do you already have yours? I mean, season ticket holders, you could have put in your pre-order already, your pre-sale. I cannot wait to get my hands on one. And by that I mean I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make the pre-sale. I'll be on air around that time. But I do hope when I'm in Seattle, we're working on a few things where I can like physically touch the jersey, get to see some of the elements in real life. And I'm super excited for that. Until next episode, we will talk more about where are they now, the inaugural roster. I'll tell you about some of my faves from that inaugural roster. We'll continue to talk about this theme that I have going into rookie camp, which starts tomorrow, Thursday, vets versus new threats. And so we'll be able to hear from some of these quote unquote new threats. We'll hear from some personnel throughout the Kraken organization. And we will continue to go through, as I mentioned, our Where Are They Now series. Until then, a reminder to be kind to yourselves, be kind to one another, and we hold fast, we stay true, and loud and proud we say, let's go Kraken. Also, let's go Seattle Storm, who we know is going to be in the playoffs, and they will get at least one home game in the first round at Climate Pledge Arena. I will catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.